From WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, this is ParksCenter. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of ParksCenter. My name's Ben, and joining me tonight we have Allison.
Hello, everyone.
Jill.
Hello.
Rob.
What's up, guys? Happy birthday, Mandy.
And Pete.
Rob stole my thunder. Sivako, everyone. Happy birthday to Mandy. You big grrr. I oughta.
Two things
Mandy,
that make
fighting
Pete
over
angry.
Everyone loves Mandy.
Yes, happy birthday to one of our more infamous wigs. Let's go ahead and kick things off with an update about temperature screenings. It's going to be coming soon to a resort table service restaurant near you. We originally thought that this was going to be live a day or two ago. We've since then got some better information that it's coming in the next couple of days. But we have confirmed with CAST that temperature screenings are coming to table service restaurants at this point. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that this hadn't happened yet. Like, they've got it at the front gate to the park. There's nothing restricting your access to the hotels. It just makes sense to do this at the hotels as well.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised.
This is actually...
Good, Jill.
I was going to say, it's actually started now. I know we've seen it at Kona. Yeah. It started,
cool.
I think this afternoon. I know we were at Kona today, and it was happening at Kona. So
I hadn't heard that yet.
I don't know that it's resort-wide, but... and Sanaa. Of course, we know it was at Sanaa. I think we have someone who permanently lives in the hallway outside of Sanaa.
Yeah, nothing happens at Sanaa without us knowing immediately.
Exactly. Surprised this didn't happen. This was an interesting experience that I had. So when we were at Universal prior to Disney reopening, Universal was actually screening at all their hotels. So we had gone to dinner at the Hard Rock Hotel, and when you entered the hotel, they temperature screened you and then gave you a wristband so that they would know wherever you were traveling within the resort, within the hotel, you had been screened and you were okay. I guess to make sure people coming in from other entrances or whatever, there wasn't any kind of question. But as soon as you walked into the lobby, you got screened and you got wristbanded. And I thought that was actually pretty impressive. And I was really surprised when Disney didn't do anything like that at the resort. So I'm glad to see it's at least happening at restaurants, but I kind of wish it was happening for throughout the resort and not just because you can be walking around Animal Kingdom Lodge or Polynesian without having been screened until you get up to the restaurant. So I think this is a good step, but I'd like to see them take it a little further.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the only thing about the hotel is that if you get turned away from Disney Springs or you get turned away from the parks because somebody in your group has a high temperature, I assume you need someplace to go and quarantine yourself. So, I mean, I kind of agree, as somebody who is staying in the hotels, I would definitely want to be safe and make sure that everybody had screens. So I was a little surprised that they hadn't, but they're going to need to send people back somewhere if they kick them out of the park for not being under the temperature. But the restaurant thing does make a whole lot of sense, and as careful as they've been about everything else, it is very surprising it took them this long to do it. I wonder what the catalyst was, though, because obviously they didn't start with it. The restaurant opened on June 22nd, right? So at the resort. So I'm wondering, I mean, I can't imagine they would just do it just cause. It makes me wonder if somebody complained or if something happened.
Yeah, I agree. It was most surprising to me that the resorts open first. So you'd think that they would roll out all of the plans in the resorts and then carry that over to the parks. But I think that, everyone that's been to the parks, not me, but everyone that's been there has been managers keep coming up to us and asking us, is there anything we can do to make you feel safer? And I bet this was some in response to guests saying this simple measure that you do other places already would make us feel a lot more comfortable eating in the restaurants. And that's why it's being implemented.
Yeah, it would certainly make me more comfortable. I know that.
I agree.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first time in ParksCenter in history that Pete Carney has had only 2 words to say on a topic. Moving on. We have some updates on resort hotels, specifically the ones that are not open yet. So we've had the Polynesian and Art of Animation have their reopening dates be pushed back at this point, with the Beach Club Resort and Boardwalk Inn still with no announced date at this point. So the Polynesian is reopening October 4th, Art of Animation November 1st. For those who don't know, we've got the dates up on screen and on our website for all the other resorts that are not yet open. Is this a bit of a shock to anybody? I mean, to me at least, this is a bit of a surprise that like they're reopening the parks, but they're walking back the reopening dates on some of the hotels. It seems kind of contradictory to me at least.
I think it has to be an efficiency thing because, the parks are already at a much reduced capacity, and then so are the hotels. And then so to open up 100% of your hotels when you've only got a third of the people in the parks, you've got then you have all the operating costs of running now all of the hotels when you can cut those costs in half by just running the ones that you need to be able to fill the parks at the capacity that you currently have. So I think that's kind of why and I think that's why you see like staggered dates, but that's really just guessing.
I mean,
thought about it.
Go ahead.
Rob, go ahead.
I was just going to say that Allison's idea makes much more sense than mine. I was going to say, like we always used to say, because money, because COVID. The idea that the whole state is about to be the highest coronavirus state in the U.S. and the fact that they haven't dialed anything else back, it does sort of make sense to at least put holds on things that aren't open yet. But clearly that's not the biggest thing. Obviously, the money makes more sense as to why they wouldn't be opening them. But my first thought was that like, hey, things aren't looking so great. Maybe we just need to hold off a little bit.
I find it interesting that Disney I don't feel like they're doing a whole lot to entice people to come stay at the resorts. Like that's my problem. First of all, the rates are kind of ridiculous. Like the rates are not discounted in the slightest. I'm going back down in a few weeks and I want to be able to go to studios, and as an AP, I can't get into studios to save my life. So I thought about booking one night at a resort to be able to make a resort guest reservation because they have carte blanche to go wherever they want, whenever they want, but not APs. Anyway, but Pop is like almost $200 a night. And like, that's the only value resort that's open right now. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, no wonder people aren't booking resort stays. You're not doing anything to incentivize them. People have depressed incomes right now. Travel is scary and risky. If you want people to come to Disney and stay on property, you need to incentivize them with better prices or some kind of deals. And not to mention, like, there's no dining packages. Like, the Disney dining plan is gone right now. So many restaurants are shut down. I mean, if you stay at Jumbo House, you only get, I think, the pool. You have to go ship yourself over to Kidani to get like even the little resort shop to get like snacks and drinks and whatever you want. Like there's nothing. So it's kind of, they're shutting down so many services. The prices are as high as they've ever been. Why would people go stay at resorts? So no wonder they don't need to open more. They don't have people staying in the ones they've got now.
Yeah.
I agree.
Twice now.
Moving on. We have an update to a story that we've covered already once before on ParksCenter. The Actors Equity Association, which is one of the unions responsible for supplying Walt Disney World with actors for their stage shows and things like that, released a video essentially attacking Walt Disney World and their lack of testing and face masks for performers in a rather dramatic video. We saw some parodies of this welcome back message on Twitter that fans were making, and then the Actors Equity Association came out with their own here. I'm going to jump a bit to the point here. Like we've still got no testing for performers, and we've got this massive spike in the graph. Meanwhile, Walt Disney World performers shot back with a Bring Back the Magic video of their own, featuring cast members holding up signs about how Disney makes them feel, and then showing at the big reveal at the end, all the signs say "safe" on the back, that it makes them feel safe to be back there, even though you might be punching your significant other. It's I'm a little surprised by the follow-up video. I feel like that kind of creates a non-unified front for getting something that I would assume everybody would want, which is either or adequate testing in the parks and face masks when you can't keep distance.
A non-unified union?
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, like, for one, like, good luck finding everyone who agrees. But I know a lot of the cast members down here now, and I've gotten to know a lot more during this entire COVID quarantine. And I know people who are on both sides of this fence, where they don't want to go back because they hear about other friends who are already back at work, where they're sitting right next to somebody on the bus on their way to work when they're getting transported. Unlike the buses that take people around now, for us as guests, there's 6 areas and you sit in your own groups. There are crowded Disney buses for cast members on property, so that might not make them feel safe. Also, I know some entertainers who also, they're dancing up and down the streets without masks on. And then, you try to social distance, obviously, they're in the middle of the street. And that might not make them feel comfortable either. And then on the other hand, I know people who are dying to get back. They don't care. They're like, listen, like you saw in that video, Disney makes me feel safe. They're like, if Disney's doing it, I trust them. I just want to get back to work. I miss the magic. I miss Disney. I miss my paychecks, especially now that the $600 is over from the federal assistance every week. Now they really miss those paychecks. So, yeah, I think this is just the union. I mean, trying to do what the unions do, but you're never going to have a unified front. People are going to have different opinions. I learned how to talk today.
I really hope that they get the testing that they're asking for, though, because honestly, I feel like these demands are not particularly egregious. And they were able to reach an agreement with Universal. If I'm not mistaken, it's the same union for both, isn't it? I know that
it's the
at
same
least
for all performers nationally.
Okay.
The same as on
Equity,
Broadway and other places, Equity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Universal's able to reach an agreement with these folks. It blows my mind that Disney
Like, because money. Like, where are you going to find all these tests? Then it costs to get them all read. And then what happens if you do have, again, more testing brings more positives. It's just something we've learned through this entire pandemic, is that now you're going to have cast members popping up with COVID. And then how does that look for Disney? Like, 14 cast members tested positive for COVID last week, who then did a show that day. It's just going to be bad PR. So I don't think Disney is stupid. Is it the right thing to do? Sure. But also, it's a PR nightmare if you start testing all your actors and performers, and then all of a sudden 14 of them pop up one day, and it's like, I was in that show audience. I might have. It would just be a disaster.
You're right. It is less of a PR disaster to say that there's a union dispute versus confirmed cases among cast members.
Yeah, of course.
And what happens when you've got some of these cast members, you had the bird show, the Up bird show in Animal Kingdom was a topic last week because they were they just kind of went on with the show without the equity actors. And that's fine because you've got the actors up there. They could wear masks. Like, I've seen enough where they have the headset mic. You can understand them when they're speaking, if they're up presenting, sort of. But what are you going to do about singers? Like Disney, I don't think Disney wants some of these shows to come back right now. Like, singers are super spreaders because of how much they project.
Yes.
So then what happens, like, if Disney is only going to bring back some of these equity actors, I wonder if that's part of the issue too, is that Disney doesn't want to bring them all back because they're concerned about bringing back some of these shows, especially where they're singing, and that could be inside a closed theater, like Finding Nemo or the Frozen show at studios that I don't care for. So then I'm blanking on the name right now. But like all of these things where you're inside a closed theater where people are projecting their voice and singing and creating droplets in the air. Like I wonder if part of it is Disney just doesn't want to deal with all that. And I think Pete's got a really valid point. If some of these cast members start showing up positive and it gets out, like that's going to be a whole other a whole other can of worms for Disney to deal with, and they've already caught so much flack just for the fact that they've reopened. So maybe it's just they're not willing to push it, incur the additional expense, and create this additional can of worms that they don't even want to touch.
I can see it. Well, moving on from there to folks who do have to wear masks in the parks, namely the guests, and some more restrictions on what exactly counts as a mask. Specifically, now, if your mask has a hole in it, or a valve, or something like that, that lets your air escape out unfiltered back into the environment, that is no longer allowed within the Disney parks or Disney Springs area. I am very glad that they made this clarification. I know that there was a decent bit of a push for folks who were overheating in the parks to wear masks that have a valve on them that just let the air out of the mask so that everything you breathe in gets filtered, but what you're breathing out goes out without having to go through a filter, which makes your mask less humid, but you're just dumping all of your air out into the world. And masks are supposed to protect the folks around you, and it kind of defeats that purpose. So I'm glad they are cracking down on that.
I have a question maybe Rob could answer for me. And it's really thinking about this because so my one of my bosses has this really impressive, massive beard. And so I feel like a traditional mask is like, it's not going to work because it's so huge that like he usually wears like a bandana because like the beard is actually probably more of a filter than anything else because it's super thick. And if he were to wear a regular face mask, it wouldn't be anywhere flush. So he usually wears that bandana. So like, what do people with that kind of facial hair, what do they do with the new mask policy at Disney or this clarification
what's so
of the policy?
Funny about that is when you said, I think Rob could answer this for me, I was thinking, what in the world qualifies me over everybody else to answer whatever question Allison's going to have, and now I see. I've seen so many guys who have the long beards who will just wear it right across their face and the beard just hangs out. So I think that's probably the best they can do. Luckily, mine's so short that it fits underneath like the mask as a whole, so it's not a problem. But if I had a Santa beard, that might be a problem. But I've seen it; it looks almost ridiculous, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too. When it's just this thing that goes straight across the ear and the beard comes down, and it almost looks just like a grown man wearing like a little kid's shirt. I mean, it just looks so out of place when they do that. And so for them, I think the neck gaiters made the most sense. But obviously, Disney has put a kibosh on the neck gaiters. I actually did start with a neck gaiter because it was a little bit more comfortable for me. And then when they wanted the filter, I bought some that had filters in them, and they were still just turning people away if you had anything. I mean, they had the ear loops, it had almost everything on the checklist, but it was still a gaiter. So I didn't do that. But I mean, I get what, Ben, what you're saying is the ones with the valve. Yes, it makes it more comfortable for the people who are wearing it. And yes, it doesn't help the people who are sitting right in front of them. So I get that it's uncomfortable to wear a mask. That's what the U-Rest stations are for. The relaxations at Disney are for. They have a lot of places where you can go and take off your mask. If you need to go and get a bite to eat and sit in a restaurant, you take off your mask. There are a lot of places where you can do that. So I applaud Disney for tightening things up as they see people falling through the cracks on different things, going, hey, I found a way around it. I'm smarter than everyone else. Oh, but here's why that doesn't work. And you can't do that. Also wanted to say thank you to Stephen Brown for the super chat where he said that Disney makes me feel safer than Publix. Because I 100% agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nothing specific to Publix, but grocery stores in general, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
you so
agree.
Much. Yeah.
This guy gets it.
Also, shout out to Steven earlier who gave another $10 saying happy birthday to Mandy. So.
Oh, that's very nice.
Missed that one.
Yeah.
So
he's just making it rain.
Yeah, I like this. We need to have weeks have more birthdays on air. This works out well. Moving on to Splash Mountain news. Not the news we were expecting, I gotta say. Splash Mountain earlier this week was fully drained and remained closed for an entire day after a breakdown on Sunday morning. It took until July 28th for it to finally fill back up and reopen. There was a big window where we were, at least I was, a little scared that this might be like an early end, that like some critical failure had occurred, and Disney just went, it's not worth it to fix it. Forget it. It's done. Drain the swamp and move on.
I love this pump fake by Disney. This is like the greatest troll on the
good,
entire internet. They're like, you know what? We forgot to paint the spot. We're going to have to drain it. But then fired back up 48 hours later. Like, such a great troll. Congratulations, Disney. That was fantastic.
Oh. It's that scene from Airplane with the guy who unplugs the runway lights.
So I know we told this story before that on opening day, on the 11th, Jason, Rob, and I were on Splash, and it broke down. And it was kind of towards the end of the day. We got evac'd. And so we were sitting there talking about it afterwards, and Jason said, like, what if it doesn't go back up again? What if they decide, we're not going to fix it and we're just going to leave it down now? Because that was still, not that people aren't still, very up in arms about the Splash Mountain situation and the refurb, but it was a lot newer then. Anyway, point being, we were having this conversation and Tom's like, it'll go back up. This happens all the time. It breaks down. It's going to be back up tomorrow morning. And so I think it's funny that, that was only 2 weeks ago or whatever. And now it was down for like 3 days. And they had to drain the whole thing. But I'm guessing we think it was probably an issue with the lift hill. And so I'm guessing, because that's what happened with us, like there was definitely a problem on the lift hill. So I wonder if it's the same thing and they're just having issues.
Also, everyone should know they're nowhere near ready to shut this thing down and start construction. Like, they have no permits.
No.
There's nothing. Like, they don't even no concept art. They don't even know what they're doing yet. They just like hired a team of Imagineers to say make this work. So like, you have a long
But Pete,
time.
they've been talking about it for a year.
Yeah, right. Everyone knows that's a joke. We'll have Splash for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus the fact that that they need the capacity right now. I mean, obviously, Studios is selling out the quickest as far as reserving passes, but the Magic Kingdom has been crowded, and I think you need to keep the people out of the main thoroughfares. And Splash, especially with the story of it closing, has been hugely popular. So, I mean, you definitely need to keep that capacity going. I can't imagine them at this point in time when there are no shows, no fireworks, and no parades for them to kill off an attraction that draws as many people as this one does. So I agree. And the one thing that like, I guess concerns me is why would you have to drain the entire thing? Because like, I know what happens when they drain a pool, why they do that. So what exactly happened on Splash Mountain that they had to drain the water?
Ew.
They drain a lot. They get drained a lot. I mean, that's why if you're going like the Kingdom tour or Backstage Magic, they show you how fast they can like empty it and refill it with that huge basin behind it backstage.
Huh.
I agree.
Anyway. I agree.
Moving on to some more, I guess, potentially missing attractions and animatronics to actually missing attractions and animatronics. Jose is still not here.
No way.
That's the joke. I put it in the UI. No way to Jose.
No way, Jose.
It's the name of the category. So poor thing. Like he fell off the wagon and has just been in rehab for like the past week and a half. Like, I feel so bad for him.
Like they can't come to an end. This was before planned obsolescence. They are meant to last. So Jose better be coming back very soon.
We're gonna hang tight for just a second here. YouTube appears to have frozen on us.
I was gonna say it's weird.
I think we might be back if folks refresh. That was
people in the chat.
That was very that was very unusual.
Weird.
All right, ignore the buzzer on this topic. We've got extra time because technical difficulties. That that was
Is
strange.
Ghost Jason still here?
Jason?
Jason.
No, we're good. We're good.
I agree. Like Jose is he's family. He's part of the whole thing. When they dropped these animatronics in back in the day for the first time and kind of surprised everybody with putting them in, it was a major upgrade. And like I think even Jill said it's her favorite part of the entire attraction. Basically, I think her only part that she likes about that attraction. So I think that they definitely need to put him back because it's the three Caballeros. Without him, it's just two. So I feel like they need to at least put him back in some sort of a B mode, if nothing else.
Dos Caballeros.
It seems like though, doesn't it seem like though it should be easier to fix an animatronic from the Mickey Mouse review than it would be to say fix the Shaman of Songs? I mean, it should be
think.
Yeah, they just put him on a turntable like Macaulay Culkin and just have him going back and forth. I'm okay with that.
I mean, he was clearly still moving when he was down.
Yeah, he was
still
trying.
moving.
He was trying.
He was trying.
Slightly off topic, but
gotta be an
can I-
Achilles injury.
The character cavalcades in the Magic Kingdom, nothing like surprised and delighted me more than when I believe it's the Goofy cavalcade comes through, and on the back of the Goofy float, there's Panchito and Jose, and I was just like, wait, are you kidding me? Like, they have the face characters out, like just chilling, going through Magic Kingdom. It was so
That's
great
awesome.
to like. The animatronics are absolutely why I ride the boat ride in Mexico. They are the reason, but because I love Three Caballeros. Like it was such a favorite of mine as a child, and so to see the face characters out again when it has been, ages since those face characters have been out. Not face characters, but the characters have been out. It was so great. It was so cool, and that's one of the things I love about what they're doing is they're pulling out some characters that you don't necessarily get to see. So. At least if you miss Jose, you can see him in the Magic Kingdom right now.
Can I also just say $5 super chat from Dan Allison, popsicles for everyone.
Yay!
Come on, Allison.
That's
Allison's the only
so
one who's
good.
eating one. It says, so next week we all get popsicles, right? Because of the $5 super chat. So thanks, Dan. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And we will not be able to get those frozen treats from Ample Hills Creamery though, because unfortunately it is. Yeah. Thank you for setting that up. That was all you.
There's a second connection here. The No Way Jose is like the best ice cream sundae on Disney property, and the No Way to Jose topic was just above the Ample Hills.
Where can you get the No Way Jose?
Beaches and cream. Oh,
I gotta go check it out.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
you probably
go
are too busy getting the kitchen sink, Pete.
Yep,
I still have to do that as well.
Well, at least you can still get all that, but Ample Hills will no longer be operating at Walt Disney World locations, unfortunately. Oh boy, and we get Jello pudding pops now. Thank you, Stephen Brown.
Yes.
The treats keep coming.
We've gotten an upgrade.
So
I wish
they
still existed.
This is something that I unfortunately never got to try myself, but it looks gorgeous. I've heard so many stories. I brought this up in chat with folks, our internal staff chat, and I'm like, do we want to talk about this? And people were just like, yes. I'm like, okay.
I am a huge Ample Hills Creamery fan. I lived walking distance from the original location in Brooklyn, and so I would go all the time in the summer for my nightly, my sweet frozen treat fix. And I fell in love with their ooey gooey butter cake ice cream flavor, and they had that at Boardwalk, and it was so cool to be able to get that. You know, I think I have personal feelings about Disney having all outside vendors come in generally, and I think this is like one of the issues you have with them is that the way that they've expanded with their business is just like really fast, and they would make all their ice cream in-house. They had their own ice, like huge vats of ice cream machines at every one of their locations, and it was incredibly expensive overhead and like outlay to like create that. And they expanded really quickly, so that's a lot of money. And then it's like high volume but really low cost for each ice cream. So I think they just couldn't keep up with the cost and with the expansion. And it breaks my heart because it's so good.
I'm so upset.
I've never been there, but it always smelled nice walking by. And that's the Pete Carney insight you get for Ample Hills.
There you go. I agree. So they had the ooey gooey butter cake was one of the flavors that they had. So that was kind of awesome. And then they also had like a sorbet that was so good that when we stayed at the boardwalk, I got it like every night. I would go down and get that, and it was really neat because at the boardwalk you don't really have just like one go-to like walk up like you do at the Mara at Animal Kingdom or at Wilderness Lodge. You go out there and they have like the pizza window and the boardwalk bakery, and they're all outside so that you can enjoy them. If you're just going to Jelly Rolls or if you are hanging out at the beach club, you can enjoy all that stuff out there. I did. I was trying to make sure you were staying awake. So the other thing was that they had they have this out there, and it was a really neat thing. There used to be an ice cream shop, and they were like, no, let's make that Abracadabra, and we'll move Ample Hills down there. So there was like a sweets shop already there, and they got rid of that to make Ample Hills. So I was thinking at the time, well, that's a shame to see that go away because I do like Disney ice cream. And then they did Ample Hills, and it was like, oh, well, this is an upgrade. I love this. And then when they said, hey, we're making one at Disney Springs, I was like, that's great. Then I can go there anytime I want to. And now we can't. So definitely a bummer. I assume it's because I think they filed, I don't know if you said this already, but they filed for bankruptcy at some point. So I assume that they're just trying to roll it back.
Light at the end of the tunnel, though, for me is that my favorite restaurant is Flying Fish. And now when I go to Flying Fish, I'll actually be able to have their dessert because usually I go there and then go to Ample Hills afterwards. So finally get to just try their dessert menu.
I love Flying Fish. That is one of the biggest disappointments about Disney right now is Flying Fish isn't open.
I know.
It's
It's
very
such ridiculousness.
I agree.
Well, hey, Rob, do you agree or disagree that it's time to end the show?
I agree.
Okay.
I concur.
All right. Well, with that, thank you all for watching. A big shout out to all of our WIGS members, our WDWNT Interglobe Society members. You folks make this show and every other show we put out there possible and worth producing. If you want to join this fine group of people, head on over to patreon.com/WDWNT. For as little as $2 a month, you can help support this and get access to our post shows for News Tonight when that comes back, along with a whole host of other benefits, including our gigantic podcast backlog, all available for you folks. Again, if you want to join, that's patreon.com/WDWNT. We are going to be doing the post show in just a moment, so stick around if you're watching that. Otherwise, we will see you all next week.
See you, Marco!
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.